she's walking down the street, she has red hair, green glasses, purple fingernails, a blue shirt, one white shoe, one orange shoe, a green skirt, and we look at her and we be like, she looks fucking crazy, right? And we start to automatically judge her, right? But that woman, she made a choice to put those clothes on. She knew that either you would laugh at her or laugh with her, but no matter what that was, she made a choice to put that on because why? It made her feel a certain type of way. It made her feel good, and her confidence is what led her out the house in that. And she's walking through life. She's walking through life happier than us. I started questioning like, shit, did I wear enough color? Exactly. And it's clothes are designed to not just cover our body and shelter us from the elements, but they're designed and they are here to make us feel something. And that feeling is confidence.
I mean, we're obviously having this conversation less than a month out from Election Day. And I think right about now, a lot of the campaign people and whatnot are having similar conversations, not about what they're going to wear to the polls, but just getting people to go, getting people to participate in our democracy. And we talk about confidence. I think there's a question for a lot of people like, do the politics even apply to me here? Like, I've talked to a lot of folks, my colleague Melissa Murray and I, we did a special on Black women in advance of this election for MSNBC, and we talked to a lot of younger Black women who said, I don't know if my vote matters. I don't know if I'm going to vote in this election. And they're not choosing between the two folks at the top of the ticket. It's just like if they're going to participate or not. Right. And so how can people take when you talk about in the book about confidence and apply it to other areas of their life? Because whether we're talking about at work, right, in our personal lives, in our professional lives, or in the voting booth, I mean,
that's a tough question. I know it's going to get a political question in D.C.
That's right.
That's a tough question. I think relying on your confidence and your self-assuredness will make you and help you and guide you to make the right decision. And that's all I can say about that.
People being confident in themselves.
Yes. And actually doing the work to figure out whose policies you think will benefit you and yours the most and the best. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. That's right. What would you say to people who think they don't have a voice?
Look, I think that it's very easy to feel like, powerless, frankly, in this day and age, in this time, especially when it comes to politics. One of the young ladies we talked to for the special, we went to my nail salon. I haven't seen my nail lady since, actually. And doing my own jail, it's been crazy. She said, I voted in 2016. She said, I voted for Hillary Clinton, and she didn't win, and I haven't voted since. And she said, I really feel like my vote doesn't matter. And that's what I said. I'm sitting there like, all right. And we proceeded to have a conversation, even off camera, some of this is making to the special, about power. And I still think at the end of the day, people have the power. And we talked to Kerry Washington for the special, and she was like, these elected officials work for us. I'm like, thank you, Kerry. Yeah. But we have to remember that we do have the power, that it is on us, and the least we could do is go to the ballot box and make our voices heard. And it pains me to think that people out there really believe that their vote doesn't matter, because before I worked in television, I worked for the first Black woman Vice President of the United States of America. The people did that. And I think people should remember that we have the power ultimately.
I think it's important that people like you exist because you speak our language. Like when you say it, we understand it. You know what I mean? Like you have a way to, shit, you came out, you started cursing right off the bat.
I flipped out.
And that makes me, that gives me a feeling of family and familiarity. Sorry, I'm from Chicago. I think it's important for you, because for me, politics are still something that I don't quite understand, right? And when you watch things like the debate and people get to getting into the policies, and then it starts to just sound like that what I'm trying to say, that just that political campaign slogan, right? And we want to go beyond that. We need people like you to come and to really speak it in our language so that we can understand it, and then we feel empowered.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I was seeing yours, I'd be like, she just ate him up.
You know, let's take it back to fashion for a second,
Yeah.
okay? Because your book just doesn't talk about fashion. It highlights how style actually intersects with culture, how even intersects with technology.
Yeah.
Like, give us a little tidbit. And folks, y'all have the book now, okay? So y'all might just need to start peeling back the pages and marking where law is talking about so you can circle back to it. But talk about this intersection of culture, technology, and fashion.
I think the intersectionality of them all, it's just, I mean, we know that now that they all meet, you know, somewhere in the middle. But culturally, I think fashion is more important. And I think for us as, because I could barely see, but I see a lot of black people.
We here.
I think that what's important for us is to hold high fashion accountable for where they get their inspiration from. There's a story that I love to tell about Nimsor, and he was the creative director of Vibe back in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
And I remember
Nimsor.
hearing this story before I even knew him, before I even got into fashion. I remember a story, and they said that John Galliano called him one day and said, "I want to be inspired, drive me around Harlem." And you saw directly the influence of Harlem in his next collection. And I think as consumers, when we talk about culture, we have to hold those people accountable for giving us our credit and telling the story of where the inspiration came from.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were going to say, but back in the day, you remember when Gucci had the sweater that was, they said it was blackface? People came out online,
Yeah.
black sweater that went up to here, their lips were red. They did this, obviously all this outrage. The CEO at the time, Marco, flies to New York and has this meeting in Harlem with like all these heavy hitters. And the people in the meeting, like Steve Stout, Steve Penman, Miss Bette, and everybody was in there. And they are lighting Marco up, okay? I'm sitting there like, we need to listen to the people. And they are lighting him up, going in, but they're pressing him on what percentage of the business is black? What percentage of the revenue comes from black people? And he's kind of dancing around the numbers.
Right.
So finally I'm like, you gotta answer Marco.
Right.
The people would like to know. And he says, actually, 3%. He said, but let me tell you. He said, black people are the culture. He said, that is why I'm sitting here. Because while it's only 3% of the business, it is 100% of the inspiration. He said, not just for what we do at Gucci, but across the board.
Absolutely.
And I uniquely understand that. I mean, Dr. Dan was sitting there. So it was, what you were saying is actually very important. And you know, sometimes the brands get it, sometimes they don't.
A lot of times.
Well. She don't want to say more. She's like, I think it's important.
Yeah, it is important. But I've been fortunate enough to get to a point in my career where I can say whatever I want.
It doesn't matter.
And that's such a blessing, you know, to have reached that level where I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like I was like, if you don't like what I said, then you can't. You gave me all the awards, you can't take them back. So I'm gonna say what I want to say, but that is true though. But then we also still have to fight, because the problem with that, even with that incident that you're mentioning, if there was someone that was in decision making, they would have known that was a bad idea in the first place. So it kind of showed that you know.
Somebody was in the room like, oh, wait a minute, that was crazy.
Right, but nobody's ever in the room, right? Nobody's ever in the room, so that's really one of the big problems as well.
We have to be in the room.
Yeah.
And I think the confidence piece, as the book talks about, the fact that you have no F's left to give is, I think, crucial.
Yeah.
I love it for you and I love it for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Because your unfiltered honesty is opening the door for people to see themselves, for real conversations, and I frankly think it's refreshing.
Thank you.
That's what we're just talking about. How do you think fashion plays a role in that, and technology going forward?
I think it plays a huge role. You know, like, well, there's political media and then there's media across the board. But you know, there are, I mean, we're talking about watching our words. I just think that there's an idea that people still have of what people who show up in media spaces are supposed to look like.
Yes.
What they're supposed to wear, how their makeup is supposed to be, how they are supposed to sound, okay? My first time I ever met with agents, they told me that I didn't sound like what people were used to hearing when they turned on the television, so they thought I needed voice lessons. What they're saying is I didn't sound like a middle-aged white man or a white woman, because that's who was mostly on the news. That's what they're talking about. And so I do think that the internet and technology has just opened the door in terms of access and what people see and what people want to see. So like there was a day and age where I couldn't be on TV being myself, right? It wouldn't have been acceptable, but because we live in a more interconnected world, because the clips are in fact how people are consuming lots of media nowadays, whether it be the news or Entertainment Tonight, people want to see themselves. And I think authenticity is very important. I think fashion is important. I think some people need a tutorial on how to do their makeup on television. And what to wear when it's best on them, okay? Just saying. But I also think that a lot of the media organizations, they also need to be about the business of meeting the consumer where they are. And it is still a struggle. I mean, I don't have to tell you, how many times have you gone to a shoot? Okay? And they brought an artist that doesn't know how to do a woman of color, a person of color.
Yeah.
Just want to bring that up.
Okay? That's why you bring your kid. We shouldn't have to do that. We should not have to do that. Why in this day and age are we still showing up to the shoot, showing up to set? Because Susan shows up and she just gets in the chair, gets her makeup done, gets her hair done, goes by her business, reads her cards, and is ready for the thing. We on the side, touching up the concealer, flat ironing the hair, because they have people on the set in the spaces and places that are not trained and well versed in making us look good.
But the reason for that is because they have the privilege to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my industry, and when I came into the industry, I said that I wanted to be better than all of them, right? So I had to prove myself to be better than all of them. I had to prove to them that I could style Anya Taylor-Joy and Anne Hathaway and the City Girls and Lil Durk.
Yeah.
So we always have to be 10 times better. Like all the biggest black hairstylists, they know how to do all hair. Because we don't get the same privilege. They get the privilege to say, well, only one type of hair, one type of skin. We never get that privilege. So in every industry across the board, we always have to be tense, and it's so fucking exhausting. One thing I said in another speech, that people say, well, why don't you walk away at the top of your career? I said, I was getting tired of being compared to mediocre white women.
Come on.
But when I came into the industry, I said, when I got to Hollywood, I said, I'm going to be better. When they laid out 25 names, and they said that these are the most powerful, the most famous, the most successful stylists in the industry, and it was 25 names, and all of them was 23 of the 25 was blonde hair and blue eyes, and nobody looked like me at all. And so when I got there and I saw that magazine, I said, and it's so crazy how the world works and how you manifest it works. I slept with that magazine next to my bed and hadn't even known it. And 3 years later, I was on the cover of that magazine. And so what happened with my career is that when I got in it, I didn't have a reference point. I didn't exist. But now my being and my existence is giving people who look like me a reference point to say, I can be just as great or greater.
Yes.
Thank you. But you did the work. You did the work.
I had to do the work.
You did the work.
And you did the job you came to do.
Exactly. And we didn't get in the room and push our way into the room and then not know how to get it done.
But I didn't just do the work, I outworked everybody else.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Okay, the last thing I would just say on this is I think that I used to work for Senator Sanders on his first campaign, and one day I called down to Brazil complaining, and she let me, I was complaining, and she let me talk for a little bit, and she goes, well, did they fire you? I said, no. She said, are y'all out of money? I said, no. She said, well, are you gonna get paid? I said, the check came today. What are you talking about? And she said, well, then maybe this just isn't the industry for you. This isn't the role for you. And I got face all turned up. But the next thing she said, I never forgot it. She said, you know, the ageism, sexism, racism is not going away tomorrow. We have to call it out when we see it. We need to work to combat it. But we also need to be able to navigate through it.
Yeah.
And being able to navigate through the isms allows you to open up the door for other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take all the ups and reasons.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Okay, back to the book.
Yes.
You talk about how important it is to leverage your individuality and really create that signature look. And I feel like you are so known for that. It's like peak fashion. It's my goal, right? When you see somebody and you're like, they're a fashion person. They're an icon. They have the look. Before we leave, help us all figure out how to get there. Take us through like the process of creating that signature look.
Well, I'll tell you something that's more important than creating a signature look is not being afraid to change it. That's the most important part. Yes, it's a chapter in the book about starting over, right? And not being afraid, because what we don't seem to understand is just the way our palette for food matures, our palette for style matures, right? And half the shit we don't like is because our mamas didn't like it. Like, your mama didn't like yellow, so you don't like yellow. You know what I mean? So I challenge one of the action items is to go to a store and grab a rack of things that you aren't drawn to, that you don't think will look good on you or fit you right, and figure out the maturation of your style palette. So it's not about always finding your signature look, it's about being not afraid to change it.
I love it. We can't get away without at least one good style tip before we move off this point. Okay, yes, we're afraid to change it, but like, give them a tip or something. You know, like, I'm a belter, by the way. Like, I'm a belter. Like, this isn't what I'm a belter. I'll put a belt on everything, especially when I lost a lot of weight. You know, not as much as I want to, but more than what people thought I had. So, you know, I put a belt on some of this stuff. But, you know, sometimes I'm getting on the set and I'm like, I need my belt. And they're like, you don't need a belt. I'm like, don't tell me what I need. I feel comfortable in the belt. Right. So, like, I'm a perfect girl. I need a belt. There's some girls out here that don't have they need a belt. Right. I think they need a belt. Right.
So,
You need a belt? You need a belt?
This is the thing, right? I don't think there's ever been a woman that hasn't walked to the mirror and looked at herself and put her hands on her waist and just squeezed it in a little bit. You know what I mean? No matter how proud of the size you said, there's never been anybody who says, I want my waist to be wider. Like, this has never existed. But for me, I've never been that type of stylist, right? I've never been the type to say, this is what you should and shouldn't be doing. It always has to be about the way the clothes make you feel. That belt makes you feel something. That belt makes you feel put together. It makes you feel sexy. It makes you feel powerful. And just go back to find the power piece. I don't really have any tips for you. Like, if you're pear-shaped, people are like, we should never wear skinny jeans. Yes, you should, if that's what you want to wear. Wear whatever the fuck you want to wear. And feel good in it. That's the tip. That's what the book is about. If y'all want a book about, style agency, go read that other lady's book. That's what my lady is about. That's what my book is about. My book is about us getting to the place where we love ourselves the most. That's what my book is about. And it took me a while to get there because I had poured so much of myself into other people for so long. when I retired, I figured out, I'm like, shit, I don't know who I am. You know what I mean? Outside of being Roach, the image architect, the stylist, the world renowned, and all these things, they're put on this pedestal I never asked to be put on. I'm from the south side of Chicago, like, I slept on floors most of my life. You know, I'm blessed to not have to live that way anymore, but that's not really where I was, so I had to figure out how to come back down to the people and learn how to love myself from the basics.
Yes.
And so that's what I wrote, and I wrote my book myself.
Woo!
And my soul and my passion.
So this book was actually a journey for you about yourself
Yes.
as much as it was about helping other folks.
Yes.
This is